This is an official Daniel in the Den podcast that
Hmm.
you're now our fourth guest, which we're grateful to have you. And
Got a special guest in the
special
building,
guest
David
in
Metzler.
used to be has been in the
David
building.
Metzler.
Yes, 100%. It's
Hmm.
amazing. And we appreciate your energy. We appreciate you being attracted to what we're doing. And as the flag stands for freedom, that's what it's all about. But true freedom from mental slavery that weighs us down. And we love having conversations with people like you that are doing cool things and have been on a journey, as you and I have briefly, I got to know a little bit about. But I'd love for you to expound on that today. Just give us like some insights as to what your journey's been and how you've gotten to where you've gotten to, and specifically
Hmm.
how you've seen the hand of the Almighty in your life and leading you to where you are today. And yeah, that's kind of, I would love to hear that.
Yeah, bro. Tell the people
Wow.
about your childhood,
All the
man. What
po-
brought
all the podcasts I've ever been on, that is the best opening I've ever heard. I mean, how has the
Mhm.
Almighty impacted my life, and how is He impacting it?
Absolutely.
Um, well, He saved my life a couple times. Uh, I almost died in a hospital once, and He saved my life there. He saved my life in the Navy when I was fighting for that flag behind you, and
Mm.
He's helped me then save other people's lives many times over. And then even now, He's in the process of it. So I can give you some context on all of that. So let me the background just real quickly to recap is out of high school, I went into the Navy. Was important for me to serve the country. I had corresponded in the First Gulf War with an active Army soldier, and I just thought it was the most noble thing that this person had volunteered his life to go over. And so I'm in, sixth grade, riding as a pen pal to an Army guy over there, and I was like, wow, this is the idea of a person putting on his life on the line to support an ideal, a flag, a belief, a structure. And even though my family, none of them had been in the military, it influenced me so much that I was like, at 18, I joined up and I told my parents after I joined, I'm like, I just signed up for the Navy. And they're like, well, you got to know all these colleges. Why are you not going in? And my mom started crying and she's like, this is the worst decision you've ever made in your life. And this is the best decision I've ever made in my life. And so, but it was the best decision. I did 5 years in the Navy as an aircraft controller and then a rescue swimmer, and it gave me a chance to see what it's like to put others ahead of self, and that's
Yeah.
kind of, if you think about what the Almighty is, there's an example of that, right? It's just what is love, and love is really just putting someone else's needs ahead of your own.
Yeah.
And I think of that as the Almighty is in that regard. So, and that gave me a first exposure to it, and got into some experiences where I was able, as an air traffic controller, it's a longer story, to keep a pilot from um, five pilots from crashing. And they came up, and one guy was like, I have a little kid, and I wouldn't have seen him tonight if it wasn't for you. And like came up to the control tower, and like normally a Navy guy, the enlisted, salutes the officer first. And in this case, these guys came up and saluted me first, and just to kind of, you know, as a token of that. And so I ended up getting a couple of awards there, and then saw later on when I missed both the wars, the Gulf Wars, but the USS Cole got hit in Yemen, and so I went over there, went over with a bunch of SEALs and rescue people, and took people that had died off the ship, and then secured the perimeter and brought in all the helicopters so there was an air traffic controller, and you see what it's like to put real lives on the line there, and these people do it on a regular basis, and it was just a powerful story for me to see that higher noble belief structure, and stood up for that. And so I'm glad I did it, because without that 5 years, um, I wouldn't have had that core value and service as part of my life. And even on my LinkedIn, it's right now, it's like David Metzler / saving lives. And I think that's kind of what it stands for. And then, so then got into Columbia and then into investment banking after that. And none of that would have happened without the Navy and God's kind of thing. My mom was like, "You're never going to get in an Ivy League," and I got in Ivy Leagues, and God put all that in front of me.
On
So
how
all
you
these
got an Ivy League,
miracles.
though. It's a really cool story about how you got an Ivy League, though.
Yeah, the Ivy League had a program after World War II where they were trying to figure out how to bring in more conservative perspectives into the very liberal kind of college environment. And so they started this program where you have to credential yourself, you have to make all the academics, and so straight A's and all that stuff got me in. But then you get in, and you have to have done something interesting. So in between college and in between high school and going to college, you have to have done something. So the Navy qualified, had a bunch of Israeli vets in there. My best friend was a Golden Glove boxer. Like I dated a Russian ballerina. My friend that went there ended up dating a valedictorian who's a model, and then ended up being a valedictorian of Columbia. So it's like it was all these interesting non-traditional students, and gave me a chance to see what it looks like to kind of not go through life the way you're told to do it, but like your core value, Danny, do it through a place of freedom, right? Where freedom is just going through things the way you're meant to be and choose to be versus told to be.
Right.
I love that.
Dude, I love that. And I love like the the diversity factor, right? You just rattled off a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds and how much we can learn from that, right? Being able to put yourself in positions and situations where you don't know it all, right? And you don't know, you're learning from people who come from completely different backgrounds, right? And I think that
Yeah.
for me especially, like that's where I'm trying to just really surround myself with people from diverse backgrounds, from diverse races, religions, ethnicities, life experience, because that's what the human experience is all about, right? Is to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And we all add value to the world, and we can all learn from other people in the world. I think a lot of us Westerners at times, have taken this flag and kind of used it as a, yeah, like we're greater than type approach, allowed our egos to get in the way of thinking that we got it figured out and we know it all. And it's like, no, man, there's so much to learn from the outside world and from people in so many different places and so many different backgrounds and so many different um have so many different skill sets and value, right? Like
Mhm.
the concept of value, like I think our
Cool.
minds have been warped a little bit, right? To think that value is this, right? And that's not it, right? That's the false god that we've been worshiping. And it's like, no, people in their real life experience, the human resource, right? We've talked about on every podcast, we talk about that. The most valuable resource we have is the human resource, us individually, these human bodies, and what we can each individually bring to the world, like that's real value, right? And ultimately, that's who I believe in is humanity. I believe in the intelligent beings and life's experience that's been thrown at each one of us. And as we all bring that to the table, we can create something special, co-create along with the divine creator.
Co-create.
Yeah.
I like the co-create. Ultimately, we're mimicking that creator, right? There's a great book, Born to Create, and there's it's the idea that in all of us is that spark of God, and in that almighty spark is the universe is created from that, and we're meant to, and
Yeah.
created in the image to go co-create and then be inspired, and then do that through, like you said, with diversity, where everyone brings a slightly different perspective, and so it's much more powerful because of the co-create with diversity mentality. And I love what you said about the human capital, because that's the really most powerful one. I've always, when I go do something, you're doing it right now that's big, it always starts with a vision,
Mhm.
and the vision attracts talent, and the bigger the vision, the bigger the talent. And then
Yep.
always, funny enough, everyone thinks about capital like value, but it's actually the third thing that comes after talent and human capital is in actual financial capital, and it always chases human capital, and human capital always chases big visions. right?
Yep.
So then you have a guy like you painting a big vision of healing thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and then who raises up to that banner? Very talented people, because it's so big and so broad and such a BHAG. And then after that, they're all centered in this new vision that collectively is held by this group of diversified people. And then capital chases it and wants in really quickly, because it can't help not be included in smart people's worlds.
Absolutely. And the uniqueness around like what it is that we are doing. Because yes, this is a vision that I have, but ultimately this is not my vision, right? Like I just have now come to embody and embrace who I am, what my purpose is, why I've been sent to this world. And now I'm just being courageous enough to speak it into existence. And that is what is attracting very talented people who resonate with this because it resonates with their soul. It resonates with this divine spark that you just referenced, which is our heart, right? And when we feel that and that resonates, we're like, yes, I'm in. Let's go. Let's figure this out. And the type of capital that we are attracting is that capital that resonates with that message, right? And there's a lot of capital out there in the world, and we're not chasing capital, right? We attract it, and we're attracting that capital because really capital is energy. Money is energy. It's simply that's what it is.
It's a tool.
Yep, it is a tool that can be used and is directly associated with the energy that is being radiated. We're using universal law on that. And as we profess and project out into the world what it is we're doing, that capital will come to us, and we'll be aligned because we're not taking capital that is focused on the almighty dollar. The almighty dollar, the revenues, the abundance, all of that will come in droves when we're attached to universal law, and we're giving. When we give love, that's what we get back in return tenfold, and that happens every time when that's your primary focus is loving, uplifting, supporting, adding real value to the other most important resources, the other human resources in every situation, and specifically in the real estate strategy that we're going to be that we're executing on, and these communities that we're building. Ultimately, like, we are empowering the residents of these homes, whether we manage them, whether we own them, like, we are empowering them. We're giving them something that in the form of education and awareness, and then a community that uplifts and supports them, that the moment they feel that, they're like, wow, man, why would I go and live anywhere else? And in fact, I want to tell every one of my friends and families about this, because this is amazing. This is an incredible experience, right? And then by default, that attracts more, and it's yeah, it's an exciting thing to be a part of. And I just
What you said that's so interesting that I've never heard anyone talk about until I met you was, as you're working with all these residents in all these places, how do you help them move up in their socioeconomic status, right? It's not that just you're managing properties, anyone can do that. You're
right.
managing properties with a desire to take the residents that live in those properties and help them become their best selves, help them have financial freedom, help them say, hey,
Yep.
you're in a 1 bedroom apartment. What does it look like if you're in a 3 bedroom? Or what does
Ab-
it look like if you get to a house? And how do we help you do that? And then how do you move into a house that we own, that you can live comfortably with your whole family in? And how do we move you up in your economic status and go with us? And we'll give you the tools and systems to help you do that. I think I've never heard anyone talk about that before.
Absolutely. And not only, and really, like, being interested in them, like, where are you at? Like, maybe you don't want to move up. That's fine. Totally cool. But what is your heart and your passion and desire? And a lot of people, like, they don't even know, like, they haven't even thought that they could even do anything else. And that's where we start, right? It's how do we help you understand where to turn on certain parts of your body so you can start being like you were as a child, where you were a dreamer, an imaginator. You were imagining and dreaming and visualizing when you were 0 to 4. And a lot of these people, they've been so weighed down in the world that we've lived in, they've lost hope that they can do anything different. And it's like, no, 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 you are divine. And here's some tools for your belt and some arrows for your quiver to be able to go and really, again, create whatever life is in line with what's in your heart. And
But it
that's
also takes a leader that's like you, that has been broken, to lead
yes.
that, right? Like, and so you know what it's like to go through that, because you've been at that bottom and crawled back up
Mm,
and stood back up. And that then says, look, I'm not just telling you what to do, I'm showing you what I did. It's empirical knowledge, and people are attracted to empirical knowledge because it's unequivocally right. Right?
yep.
It's easy to tell somebody when you're never been in their shoes what they should do differently. It's a lot
Yep.
different when you say, I've been exactly where you are and I've made my way back. And I mean, that's part of what attracted me to you, is that, same thing with me. I'm 18 years sober and I've helped 40,000 people recover from drugs and alcohol. And it always came from a place of, I know what it's like to recover myself. And then I can put myself into other people's shoes and speak from an authority of, how do you get back on that, and how do you stand back up, and how do you get your family back, and how do you get your loved ones back, and how do you stay sober day after day until 18 years of them are come together, right? And that's what you're doing as well. It's speaking from a place of understanding. You go back to the almighty conversation. Ultimately, that's why his message was so powerful. Was it wasn't a king telling his kingdom and all these paupers what to do. It was a person that was born in a barn that, depending on your perspective, that brought that back up. But it was coming from a level of the people
Yeah.
coming back up versus someone from authority telling you what to do. It's a totally different perspective. And it's really where love is when, you think about it, is, a God would humble himself down to be so low that he could speak to everybody from a place of suffering, and they would all see that.
Absolutely.
There's this amazing story within the Mormon church where it talks about Joseph. There's this video where it was like Joseph was like, why does God let you fall down to the ground? On basically the idea of like, why does God let you fail? And it was the idea he said of, so that he can actually build you up bigger than you ever were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting concept to think of like all of your life experiences that you have lived are on purpose, because his work and his glory is to bring about the eternal life of man. And how does he do that? You are on a very, very windy road. You are on your own little journey. You're on a roller coaster of life that it ultimately does make sense in the end, because it is leading you back to God. The only way, the only perfect way that will actually do that for you as an individual.
Yep.
I love that,
Well,
Chris. And it's what I love about you too, Chris, is like, you know what it's like to be broken, and you put yourself back together, and you have someone in my life that I've really respected and seen being a great father in the middle of hard times. And also, exactly what you just said, you just lived it. And who do you respect in life? You respect the people that have lived hard lives and been good people in the middle of that. And you're one of those. And a great father is an example of, it's really easy to leave. It's hard to stay when you're broken and be a good person in the middle of that. And both you guys have done that. And I think that's a commonality there. I just got done leading this executive leadership group here on this offsite. So I'm casual and I'm here. My battery's about to die. So I'm going to go off video and charge my car, but I want to keep this conversation going. And just unfortunately, I'll have to charge it real quickly. But I love what you were saying about um, the Almighty on this. And I think another Almighty thing is, where did these big visions come from? And Danny, tell me about your big vision. Like, you've been developing it for a while. It's in motion, but what inspired it? I love these Genesis stories when it comes from, you talk to a founder and you're like, how did this idea come to you, and when did it come to you, and where is it now? And I'd love to hear that again.
yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate the question. it actually it originates back. I mean, really, it's my entire life. I mean, my background and upbringing is in the real estate world, construction and development. My dad's been in the real estate world, but even before him, I mean, my roots tie back to early Mormon roots. The tie back to the uncle of the founder of the Mormon Church, Joseph Smith, who
Wow.
they were believers in a different way, right? The story of the restoration of the gospel,
And
Jesus
then also,
Christ, profound. And you know, early settlers decided, wow, this guy professes to have seen God the Father and Jesus Christ, and we believe this so much, we feel it in our hearts and our souls that we're going to walk across the entire United States, because they were ridiculed and persecuted for their beliefs and for standing for something that they believed in. And as I was raised in that culture, and with the religious culture and upbringing that I was raised in, comes some incredibly foundational discipline and obedience. And this is what we do because this is what we do. And that's an amazing foundation that was given to me, which ultimately led me to serve a mission. Um, and that was where I had experienced something on my mission that I had never experienced before in my life. And I met a lady that taught me this foundational concept of consciousness. And she didn't teach me through her words. She she taught
Wow.
me through her countenance. And her family lineage ties back to the Jews that were in Jerusalem, that when Jesus came, they acknowledged him as Jesus. And when I met her and had this experience with her, I cross-referenced it with the religious culture that I was, raised in and very much a part of. And I just felt a kind of a disconnect in the things that we profess to do and believe in, but yet how we acted. And it was very different from this experience that I had with this lady. Her name was Kabi, and that experience impressed into my soul. After having that experience, a lot of undeniable things of seeing the hand of the Almighty in my life. First, even getting on a mission was a miracle in and of itself. And then when I was there, having the experience that I had, and then coming back home, kind of getting put right back into the rat race of the world of, busy life, go, 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 real estate, well, first it was schooling, and then I came out of school with a construction management degree.
You got married during that time too.
Got married right out of school, or right after my mission. Had my first child a couple years after that. So I was going to school with a baby, and my wife was a full-time nurse working nights, and she and I were just doing our thing, grinding, hustling, had a great time, and loved the experience of all of that with young kids. And
You're better at it than me. I got a 1 year old, and man, we have a 1, a 2.5, and a 5, and it's a lot of sleepless nights. And you sound like you
wow.
handled it with dignity. And I wake up shot and then trying to work it out through that whole process. It's kind of why I gave that compliment to you, Chris, is like, it takes a lot of balance to be just what you just said, which is how do you be a good man with a father around, the patience, the love, and you're grinding and trying to hold everything together, pay people, all that stuff. And it sounds like you went through that really with maybe even more dignity than I have. It's not easy.
Definitely not easy, and it was very much worth it. And all of it was, there was a lot of, and I give a lot of credits to my wife, because honestly, without my wife being who she is, there would have been no possible way that I could have been able to pull it off the way that I've been able to pull it off. It's been a team effort. And but so I graduated in college from 2000 in 2007, construction management, right as the world was kind of, the GFC was happening. And just so happened that my father had brought into our office a couple different guys, 3 different guys that started a company by the name of Treehouse Group, and they were buying mobile home parks and wanted to redevelop them. And ultimately I was kind of able to be at ground zero to a movement that emerged out of that little office and that partnership
And
in Treehouse.
mobile homes are like that, and storage were like there's a huge cash cow. Like I mean
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
you get
Yep.
residual payments forever once their people are in, right? Is it,
Right.
my understanding of it? They're one of
Yep.
the top investments, and if you were early on that, you were early on one of the marquee kind of real estate plays out there.
Yep. Yep. And Treehouse executed on it seamlessly. And
Hmm.
what that ended up evolving into was ultimately the SFR asset class that was birthed out of Treehouse Group creating a joint venture with with Blackstone, which then became Invitation Homes, which is one of the largest single family residential companies in the country. And I was able to be kind of at ground zero to that whole movement and watch it evolve and be a part of it on the outside. I was an outside broker for them early on, and ultimately was partners with those guys on a different venture, not Invitation Homes. But through that process, I was able to witness firsthand kind of the inner workings of uh, the experience of the residents that are living in these homes. And,
These trailer park people are kind of, they pay because they don't have an option, but they're, to your point, they're at the bottom tier of the economic social status, right? So you
oh,
got
yeah,
to see
absolutely.
that firsthand.
Right, for sure. On the mobile home park side, yes, but then I'm referring to even on the single family residential side, right? Where this asset class was birthed and um that again was separate from the mobile home park side, but this SFR asset class that we have been able to kind of build this acquisition and leasing and management platform off of over the last 10 to 12 years. And just in general, property management, whether it be in single family, whether it be in mobile home parks, or whether it be in multifamily, it's a very challenging business model, right? And it's because there's this disconnect in energy at the core nucleus of the model, right? Because you've got this management company that's trying to keep opposing forces happy. In our current model, it kind of is this, the lesser than human, the tenant, and a greater than human as the investor or the owner. Even though it's not how it should be, that's kind of how it is. It's kind of how we are, act as a society. And in the
Yes.
center of that, you've got this private management company that's trying to keep both of those parties happy, investors happy for their returns, and tenants happy with all of their complaining and requests and we're trying to drive revenues here, maximize revenue, spend as least as we possibly can, and yet the resident is trying to have a good experience. And I just have watched this whole process evolve and happen, and felt the disconnect within the space. And as I went through my journey about 5 years ago, I kind of had gone off and done a fix and flip strategy with another former business partner of mine, really close friend. We went and bought houses in Houston. And as we went through that process, we didn't stick to plan B, which was holding and renting them, because of some partnership things that we were working through. And ultimately,
What'd you do instead? You try to
we just
improve them,
fire
flip them?
sold them.
Yeah.
We tried to fix and flip them, and well, not tried. We did. We bought
Yep.
them, we fixed them, and we flipped them.
But had you
And
cash flowed them through rent, with all the increase the revenue, all the value, I mean, they'd be, that portfolio would have been massively
massively
increased.
successful had we
Huh.
stuck to PCD. But
Yeah.
honestly,
Isn't it funny how
I'm
hindsight is always nice to look back on and judge
always
our
nice to look back on.
criticize our decisions?
But I would not change anything that happened, because
Agreed.
that led me to the dark night of the soul.
But
2018, 19 were some of the most incredible years of my life, and they were the most painful years of my life. My parents were actually gone in Ukraine on a mission after having gone to Russia a couple years prior. So there was a lot of family stuff going on as well. Personally, I had a lot of pressures on me. Um, as you can imagine, I was a young father with five young kids. growing
Yep.
multiple businesses, and my parents were gone. I'd stepped in to help my father finish out a project that we got out of the ground 10 years prior in 2008, 9, and it took us 10 years to work through it. And so I was pulled in a bunch of different ways on the business front and trying to figure out how to grind my way through it, and yet found myself literally at rock bottom. Had a financial reset across the board, had
Yep.
broken back in 2019 up at Lake Powell, which is a divine place from God. Found myself, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, kind of broken. Yeah, broken. And so
I've
no
been
other
there, done
place.
that. We can compare brokenness and there's levels of it, but you just described physical, emotional, and all parts of brokenness, and that's really where you go back to where you started the thing. Where's the Almighty? And
That was
for
it.
me, Almighty is really seen in the broken moments, right?
Amen. Amen. Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. I would never change those moments for anything, because again, it has given me perspective and understanding. And it led me to a place where I was humble and I was listening and I was yearning and seeking light and truth and, wisdom and guidance. And I was able to attract into my life people, opportunities, places, experiences, books and knowledge and wisdom in so many ways that have been able to mold and shape what has now become this operating system. That as I have been disciplined to these practices, I've been able to sit here and say, because I honestly, I ran from real estate after that, you know, reset. I was like, man, sheesh, real estate. Do I really want to even do anything in the real estate world anymore? This has been a painful place for me. Um, but God kept holding me there, and He's just like, no, I'll send you the right people to help you. And He did. He sent me an incredible business partner, Chantel Davis. She is an angel from on high that has
Hmm.
stepped into my life and has helped come and operate and pick up where I needed to be picked up, and I've been able to, utilize the relationships that I've had in the space. And she's been an incredible operator that has helped me through, generate revenues enough to kind of be able to spend my time organizing myself to get this operating system in place, to then be able to say, because my heart went to, okay, how can I take these things and apply them first in my home with my kids and my family? How can I
Yep.
educate kids and my family and on my wife on these foundational principles of how to connect your heart and the mind, and therefore convert yourself into a physiological magnetic energy field of love, and overcome limiting beliefs and overcome these heavy feelings and emotions that weigh us down as a society and keep us in this fight, flight, fear, stress, anxiety state that is disconnected. And rather, let's elevate to a place where we can believe and know, and despite what's right in front of our face, we know that it will happen because we know that we are divine, right? And as we as a family have gone through this process in the Kata home, Casey Danny home, um, we have been able to come to this place where we've attracted incredible people in our lives, like Chris.
Well, so
uh,
let me just drill down a little bit in that. How you come up with this new belief structure? You get broken. Your wife stays with you through this whole process.
okay.
Sees that, so you know you got the right woman, because anyone that sticks with you, and I have one of those as well. You'll meet Stacy, see me lose everything, go from millions to nothing, and on the couch in my parents' house. So you got a woman that sees that. You stick with her, but you've also are fundamentally changing, and you came back with a new belief structure. How did that? How was all those changes taken into the family household? The
Great
what'd
question.
you call it? What was
Kata, yeah,
the Kata
Kata.
house? Like, so how did the Kata house go through all that turmoil and change?
That is a
Yeah, I want
great
to know this
question,
too.
bro.
I want to
This
know
is a
this
great
too,
question,
because I
man.
need to know this from my
Yeah,
perspective.
100%, man. Absolutely. This is a great question. She and my kids have been so loving, so patient, so compassionate, so understanding, and it has been extremely hard and challenging. And I've had to go through my
Yep.
moments and then give her space to go through her moments and express her thoughts and feelings on how it's been, because she's been holding down the fort and has been bottling up a lot of things just to, keep it all together. And it's been a give and take and an ebb and flow. And ultimately, though, as we both have kept open hearts and open minds, and centered ourselves on the foundation of Christ, which is the foundation upon which, when we build our lives, it's the rock, right? It's a solid foundation that when the devil sends forth his winds,
And he always does.
he will every
Always
time and
does.
will continue, that those winds and rain and hail will have no power over us to drag us down to the gulf of misery and endless woe, because of the rock upon which we are built. And the fact that they have felt a shift, and I say they, I mean every one of my kids has felt it and experienced it and seen it, and my wife too has felt it and experienced it. And it took a little bit longer for her because she was also the recipient of a lot of the purging energy that came through, and she was, by my side, and unfortunately was the innocent bystander that had to take some of that negative energy on.
That's a lot to take on.
It was a lot to take on. But as I have come back and grounded, because, honestly, like I kind of disconnected from some of my, core beliefs, not necessarily my belief systems, but some of the religious constructs that were put on me. Like I had to tear them down and,
Well, you were born and brought up in a Mormon church
Mormon
environment,
religion.
right? So,
Correct.
and then
Correct.
you added in elements into your faith that go
Yep.
way beyond that. And
Right.
then I don't know if you guys were if your wife is Mormon as well, but then
She
your
is
whole
saved.
environment is, being challenged by those new faith environments and like the
Yep.
rock of Christ and all the things that you're talking about. Like there's
Yep.
some commonality, but there's also newness in that, and
A lot of newness.
newness
New.
scares people, right?
Absolutely, it does, especially in a very, rigid, dogmatic church
Mhm.
culture of the Mormon faith. And honestly, like I I I am now to a place, and this has been part of what has given her a safe feeling, is like I went on a journey, I've been on it, I kind of had to tear it all down and rebuild it and go through my own process of healing and natural plant-based medicines and medical marijuana and psychedelics and a whole bunch of things that I went, and I had to feel it, I had to experience it, I had to live it, and all of those were incredible for me, and they've been an incredible part of my life. And as I have come back around to the foundational principle and concept of, all right, God, it's not my will. What is your will for me? I will be disciplined. I will be obedient. I know that I need to be in this organization, and I am committed to be all in on the things that I am all in on. And there are certain things that I don't vibe with, and I don't focus on those things. I focus on the things that I am all in on. And that
Yep.
is that I know that I've been a part of this organization and my roots tie back to it, and that ultimately, like, I'm here to help people feel a different energy. That, guess what? Yes, while the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and all Christianity in general, like we as Westerners in Christianity, we got a lot of truth. Well, guess what? There's a lot of truth outside of what we know, and I've felt it, I've experienced it, I've lived it, and it's uplifted me, and it's all the same message, and it's this: one love. It's let Jah provide the bread, right? The children are crying, right? Open your heart, open your mind. Let's be unified as one, and that's the message, and that's it. And I'm all in on being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and I'm all in on going to meditation retreats that are put on by Hindu, Buddhist people that are divine beings. And it's like, as I've been able to come back to my roots and feel like grounded within my roots, and acknowledge that, hey, Casey, you're amazing. Thank you for being here by my side. And I am a different version of me, but I'm still me, and I'm still a believer, and I still acknowledge God's hand in my life. And I just have a different perspective. I have my perspective, my eyes have been opened to a different way of understanding what Jesus's message is, which is very simple, and it's to love God, and it's to love your neighbor as yourself. And you got to love yourself. in order to love God, because we are a piece of God. We are his divine children, and we have deity flowing through us. And so,
Well, that's
you know,
and that's always a work in progress, especially when you've been broken, to come back to a place of love, because there's a tendency to try to be pulled back into that brokenness. Because it's you have to rewrite the neural pathways to get to a
yep,
place of that, and it's a constant
absolutely.
battle and a constant
Yep.
intervention on every negative thought has to be intervened on until it gets to a place where it's a positive thought, and the love is replaced with the fear and the anger that oftentimes is self-directed. Or so as you're rising people up, it's doing that, and then finding that, you know, Almighty God that is your place to find love is an important part of it. And I have a different belief structure, but the thing that is actually unifying on us is that there's um, a God, and there's an element of it, and that God is there. And I'm trying to seek out my belief, and I'm surrounding myself by really good men that are on a belief that they see Christ as their anchor. And so I like that in my life, and yet I also respect everyone else's ability to find that. And so
Yes.
it's hard, because I think sometimes religion wants
Yes.
to
We
put us
just
in
said this.
different buckets, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
I gotta I gotta shake my head when I hear your perspective and say that your perspective is wrong. And it's actually, if you look at the big flag behind you, it's a
Yeah.
symptom of what's going on right now.
Right.
The religions have been hijacked again in our
Yep.
time, and are being used to separate us from each other,
Yeah.
and not connect us. And you go to, Jesus flipping over tables in the temple, and
Yep.
that's a common theme of, people, want to put religions and put a way of separating us from God, and you got to pay to get to God, and
Yep.
believe this way and believe that way. And so I have a different way of looking at it, but I also like and don't believe that you need to be so critical, and that there is wisdom in others, and then find your truth and start healing yourself from the inside. I'm
Yes.
working on that on a regular basis today, and I'm bringing it to my family like you are, and in that I'm we go to church every week, and there's truth in that for us, and yet I love the fact that the whole world can be lifted up in their own way when people start rising up and seeing that.
Amen, brother.
I absolutely love that. I mean, here's the thing. If you are someone, my core belief is, you are someone who's truly in line with God, then you know that there's truth in all things that come from God, and that there's truth found in all of the different religions. There's truth found there's truth found in all different various pockets of the world.
Yep.
And God God does not want us to be divided. He wants us to be unified. So instead of looking for reasons to, and I think this is something that the world needs right now. This is what the C2A is all about. Is like, rather than looking for ways to divide yourself from another person, look for ways that you can find commonality and unify. Because, that Satan is the one that's wanting you to get divided.
Yep.
Satan is the one that wants you to have fear and anger and pain in your life.
Yep.
All things that are good come from God.
Yep.
Things that are bad come from Satan. If God's here on this earth, he's not looking at the Jewish man and the Muslim man and saying, "Oh yeah, go fight." No, he created both of them. He wants us all to be together under one roof, under one house, and let's do it.
Yep. And that is what this movement is about. And you know, like I do want to say, because I actually had a lady ask me this when I was in Puerto Rico, when she heard, "Oh, Daniel in the Den. Oh, is that like a religious thing?" No, actually, it's not. Daniel in the Den, I do not, while I am a part of a religion, I think, David, you and I are on the exact same wavelength. Our belief system is 100% on point, regardless of what religion I'm a part of or whatever. Because ultimately, Daniel in the Den, Daniel and Christopher both stand for being unified as one. That's what we stand for. We stand for pushing love to the world, helping that love radiate and resonate from every single human being, and in being intentionally inclusive of people outside of our race, outside of our religion, outside of our belief systems, because we want to bring truth together. That's what it's about. And yes, the stories found in the Bible, the story of Daniel in the Bible is a powerful story. And it's like understanding and knowing who you are and being willing to, just because somebody tells you not to pray, like, no, I'm going to pray because I know I'm from God and I know God's got me. And I know, and again, even if you don't call him God, even if you, the creator, whoever that divine being is for you,
Yeah,
that's
you're
what we're
higher power,
inviting,
right?
the higher power. And that's where we're inviting everybody to come and acknowledge in their own way, in their own language, and in their own form of expression. This is a platform that is open to all of it. And
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I have helped so many people with drug and alcohol addictions. And if you look at, that was 1930s that was created, right? So you're coming up
yep,
on the better part of 100 years. And anytime some knowledge can be put out and stand the test of time, Bible being an example of that, and not be debunked, and AA's kind of Bill W. founded that, and he wrote the 12 steps. And the brilliance, inspiration, divine element of it was he realized that when people come into from a broken place, the first two steps mention a higher power, and then it switches to
yes,
God from there out. And the
mhm,
genius of that is that, like me, when I came in and got sober 18 years ago, I blamed God for everything. And so then it was a higher power that seemed to be palatable. Then I developed a God of my understanding. And then I developed a relationship with God, which was to me just love and absolute love. And then from there, an individual soul-seeking process can become understood from there, right? And then,
yeah,
there's Christianity, there's all kinds of versions of Christianity. There's, Mormonism and Protestant and Catholic, and you pick your version of that. And or I mean, the 12 steps have been repurposed to be Zen, right? I was telling you about that.
yeah,
There's a huge
yeah,
movement on Zen Buddhists using the 12 steps. And so when you have a fundamental truth or system, and then you can help people from brokenness back to wholeness and work through a cleansing of toxicity and kind of evil in a lot of ways, and things that I've done terribly to others and been done to me, and clean all that out. There's systems can be then used, in finding God from a broken perspective, I think, is the commonality. And that's why I thought it was such a genius program, is that it just starts with higher power and moves you up to a God, and then find the God that and the path towards that. And so anyways, it keeps me a little bit more open-minded. My wife
yeah,
got saved, and she tends to look at it a little differently, but it's also, there's beauty in each person's perspective. I think is also important for me. And, some of the guys that I surround myself with, most of the guys now are really strong believers in Christ. And I learned from them. And yet I don't have a fear of other people's perspective, because it then allows me to see that they're on a path to try to understand God. And again, there's wisdom in everything. And if it brings a reaction in me, there's usually something in me that I'm having
yeah,
to look at. Almost
absolutely.
100% of the time, it's the something in me needs to be cleared out if I have a judgment towards someone else, and it's usually the same thing I'm judging myself on.
Absolutely. Yep. Powerful, powerful statement. Man, well, it sounds like you kind of like been interviewing me this whole time. I want to learn a little bit more about you and what you've been doing recently
Yeah, bro, what got you from the businesses that you were doing with the investment banking
into
and
what you're
then
doing now.
yeah, and like speak on like how you got into what you're doing now with the Phoenix strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I went through Wall Street after Columbia University, and I saw that Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle and lived that Wolf of Wall Street
Yeah.
lifestyle, and there was no God there. It was just self and money, right, and greed. And then I broke. I mean, I told you in the beginning of this thing, one of the times I almost died was I was put in the hospital with a heart attack at 27 years old, basically, and I couldn't stop using cocaine, right? And would use
left the hospital. Drug dealer met me on the way home, and I'm 2 years out of the Navy, never used it before, and it just stole my soul really quickly. And so I finally got treatment and got into a program, and then realized that like money isn't what matters. Saving lives is what matters, and helping people. And so I kind of looked at where can I do that every time I do something. And so I started a recovery platform that helped most of the drug and alcohol treatment centers across the country used us. Aetna, Blue Cross, United Healthcare put their patients on us, and we helped a lot of people recover and get to their families and heal their families, and that felt really rewarding. And we sold that off, and then went to a company where it was a fitness company where you paid us a membership, and you went to 450 yoga, Pilates, spinning, CrossFit studios, and we were partners with Lululemon. And every time you worked out, we helped a local kid that lost their PE program fighting that kind of epidemic of obesity, and getting kids healthy. And then you got healthy, and it was awesome. And then the private equity group backed out of that company, and it killed the company, and I ended up zeroed out and on my parents' couch. And my wife stayed with me, kind of Danny, like your wife did, and saw me surrounded by all these beautiful people, and just super successful, and all the way back into the fetal position, and then from the fetal position back up again. And that's the brokenness to wholeness that can happen when you have the courage to do hard things and get back up again and take the next punch and go at it. And then I realized I wanted to start helping companies not have to go through that suffering. And I bought a few companies, and one embezzled money from me, and then one didn't. So we found a financial system that we use that allows any company that you're operating to really understand like every detail, because we digest all the data from the companies that we work with. And so we work at CFOs. They have the system where they have control finally of their finances and can grow and then exit for more money because they're using our system. And to me, that was like, all right, this is the next evolution for me, is empowering others and myself to realize their dreams and not necessarily driving it myself. And so then, we're doing that, and we also do these HubSpot integrations where we can take all your financial data back into HubSpot, and then we're starting to kind of grow that, because now when you can visualize how your company's doing, investors will drool over dashboards and understanding of that. So that's great. And then we help them sell their companies for more money, and because these are people's dreams, right? The company that you started, this, Danny, like you put everything you have into it. Your family is put to the side a little bit. All your money's into that asset, everything you have, and your whole life. It's your baby in a lot of ways, and closer in some ways, because it's there. And help them succeed, never fail on that dream, and then get out and get to a level where they can exit for more money. Is like, to me, that was really validating and exciting for me to do that as the next chapter, and make sure people don't have to have things stolen from them and lose their company because of mismanagement of financials.
Dude, that's amazing. And of course, it's inevitable. We're in the flow. We're having this
The
conversation.
financial management.
I know,
guru.
that's what I'm talking
Mhm.
about. And that, like, the fact that, yes, we literally right before this call, we're digging through a bunch of financial stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, we need to connect and collab, especially in the beginning stages before this thing goes where it's going. Because again, my thing is I'm a visionary. I see it. I know what's happening. I know how this is
Yep.
all gonna. I don't know how it's all gonna happen on the nitty gritties of it, but the strategy part, when you and I need to sit down, and the three of us need to sit down and kind of map out like how this is all going to work, and because the value of the C2 way, this operating system in corporate America, and with HR departments of these people, these companies that are trying to give these human resource, these resources, these humans, which is their most important resource, value. Once they understand how to do that, the value creation within the corporate world is massive. I mean, massive.
Well, I'll
Resetting
do
the
it.
engine.
I'll do it. My partner, John, you'll love him. The guy that started Bright Zen. So Zen's in the name of all this. We'll do it.
Yes.
And, there's a thing that I've seen. I teach on this a lot of times to, Founder Institute, which is I mentor there for all these entrepreneurs, and to the Bunker Labs, which is a venture kind of incubator for veterans. And vision plus math is when reality gets changed, right? So
Yeah.
a vision, you put math to that, and it becomes real because it houses all the details and all the
Yes.
steps and all the pieces to get
Yes.
there. And so vision without it, and then a really good friend that I trust a lot, said it, and my pastor said this the other day, is it's vision without the goals and actions is just a dream. And
Yeah.
he's really smart, and I like him a lot. And my pastor is a great guy, and so those two things, it's vision plus math equals the plan necessary to change the world. And you're on it. So we'll sit down and do that, and then I'd love to figure out how to bring um, help heal people from addictions on that Zen property, the 160
Oh,
acres you have
absolutely.
up there. There's just
Absolutely.
something God put on
God
my
bless.
heart. This
Yeah.
this miracle mountain concept of, like, there's this place up that you bought Payson, and on that mountain, the kind of white mountains up there, where I feel like people can pilgrim up and get healed. And I'd love to. I know you got a healing center thing, and if I could help,
Yeah.
I would love to see some
Love
people
the
come up there
collaboration.
with addiction
Yes.
issues. Veterans go up there and recover in that way. So we'll collaborate, and we'll lock down the vision and then the math behind it, and then we'll make it into a reality that's much bigger than anything you and I could do by ourselves.
Amen, brother. Because God is interlaced in all of it, right?
Dude, I love this.
Mm,
That is absolutely
mm.
right.
Love
God
this.
is
We're
good.
doing that with our company. We're working on tithing for every company that we come in, and yeah, just trying to putting into the foundation God
Love.
first, because then it's always there. And it also keeps me, because we've talked a lot about brokenness, and that's where the devil can come and tell you all these things that are, trust me, I've lived all those lies and told them to myself. And you're not worthy of anything and all those things. And then the other place he comes in is, seems like on the polar opposite side of that, right, is when success comes in, and you have everything,
And
and
ego
then
and yep.
there's no need to listen to God. And so if that belief here is, if a company can be founded on that principle, then it's anchored into that. And it
Absolutely.
never allows for it to stray from that place of goodness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is the C2 way. That is what it is. It is the foundational it's a culture. It's a culture business that gives people the ability to create a culture that is founded upon connected consciousness, which ultimately C2 stands for Christ consciousness. And even if you're not a Christian, go look at the ancient writings of the yogis. There's a book out there called Christ the Yogi or Jesus the Yogi, written by Paramahansa Yogananda, one of the guys that came over in the 1800s.
Say that 3 times fast.
I know Paramahansa Yogananda. I've had to, the guy is incredible, has some incredible writings, but there's a lot of references in those Eastern world books and these yogis that talk about Christ consciousness. It's not Christianity, it's Christ consciousness. It's the divine spark, right? And that's the C2. I mean, again, we kind of talk about it on the connected consciousness front, but like ultimately, when this operating system is applied in your company, which really it's into the human resources, then Christ consciousness shines from each individual. And therefore, the foundation of your company is solid. It's founded upon a rock that when it goes up and when it goes down and when good times or bad times, it's all giving praise to God because we recognize that all abundance flows through us and outward for the greater good of humanity. Like that is the foundational concepts of the C2 way. And so I
Well, I need to
love that.
learn. You got to get me the curriculum. I'm super curious
I
about it. I know you're
yes.
You
launching
will
it.
learn the curriculum, my
Yes, yeah,
friend.
you're gonna be like we
You will
are
learn.
we're
Read
dialing it
it.
down right now these next couple of weeks on the digital curriculum, and you're gonna go through it, and you're gonna be a part of it, and we're gonna be collabing on these Zen Warrior boxes that are going to get delivered, because that's the revenues that flow through will get pushed out to these Zen Warrior boxes. They're going to get delivered to, communities around the world that will educate on these same concepts.
And the curriculum, and we'll finish here, but like with the curriculum will get taught to individuals and to businesses and change hearts and minds everywhere.
That's it.
Like how you help business owners on their financial wealth, their financial health. We help people with their spiritual health, emotional health, physical health. And so we all work together. I'd like to ask you if there was something you want to shout out. Like a person, place, thing, idea that you want to shout out. You want to give a little bit of special love to.
You mean like a call out for an action item? Is that what you're saying? Or for a person?
As an example, I mean, it could be a person, place, thing, idea. I mean, we had a guy who said he wanted to give a special shout out to the idea of stewardship. You know what I mean? But this could be a moment where you want to shout out your business. You know what I mean? You already kind of have, but a shout out.
Yeah, I don't. The business stuff is business stuff. There's another thing that I want to shout out, and it's a friend of mine's company that he's starting up that's going to be super powerful, and it's called David's Academy. I love the name. Obviously, it's named after David versus Goliath, but I also happen to share that name. And his vision is to turn young youth into mighty warriors and forge them.
Oh yes, I need to get to know this guy. Let's go.
Yeah, so
David's Academy. Let's go. Let's bring these guys to become Zen warriors. Game on.
Exactly. So
David's Academy, Daniel and the Den.
Beautiful.
It's and then the idea of like that's such a perilous age for all of us right now with social media and all the other things. So how do you forward them into men of God that can stand up to Goliath and look in any obstacle and say, I can overcome this, and Almighty powers that belief, right? So so he's got a really cool vision, and I want to see that turned into reality. And then obviously call out, I'd love to see in Arizona more addiction treatments that are of God for God. And I think there's this vision of this healing place up in the mountains where people can overcome drugs and alcohol, veterans and others. And as a veteran, I just know the mental health and suicide rates. And so I can see that as a purpose. We'll help as many CFO clients as we need to fund that other thing and tie it towards that other thing. But for me, that's the call out of those two things is kind of the David's Academy and then creating an addiction platform that transforms people on a massive level.
Man, I love it. And the C2A is interlaced on all of it. We want to give and add value wherever we can. A guy I want to connect you with that we're actually going to have on our podcast next week. You might recognize his name. Max Hall is his name. He was BYU quarterback, actually started for the Cardinals for a short time too.
Nice.
And had his stint with some addiction, and ultimately it's what took him out of the league. And he's a warrior at heart, and he's now started a recovery program, and I'd love to get the two of you guys together and collaborating together.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, he's of like mind. So awesome. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you gentlemen for the hour and kind of wandering conversation through life and spirituality and God and beliefs and love and then how to make a difference. So this is what a unique podcast you've created here.
Thank you, brother. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being you, and thanks for being drawn to us and spending your time with us here on Daniel the Den, and can't wait to continue to see what God has in store for us. So have a great rest of your day, man. And I can't wait to get together with you and your wife and your kids. We're going to have a little party at our house.
Yeah,
we'll bring the 3 kids to the house and see just how much chaos we can all handle. All right. You guys are awesome. Keep it up.
Brother.